The Smoky Mountains Silent Bell. Townsend, Tennessee, October 1943. The war was 3,000 miles away, but it still found ways to reach into the hollers. Every able man under 40 had gone to Knoxville or Chattanooga to rivet bombers or load shells. That left the old men, the women, and the children to keep the sawmills running and the chestnut orchards picked before the first frost. Elijah McMahan was 15, too young for the draft and too ornery for regular school. Folks called him Lige. He lived with his widowed mother in a dog-trot cabin just off the little river, close enough that the water talked all night through the floorboards. Every dusk, Lige's job was to climb the ridge behind the house and ring the old locomotive bell his granddaddy had hung in a white oak after the railroad pulled out in '29. One long clang meant supper, 2 short meant company coming up the trace, 3 fast meant troubled bear, flood, or ravine-ewers. The sound carried clean across the valley to the Ware's Cove side, and every soul in Townsend set their clocks by Lige's bell. But on the 3rd Thursday of October, the bell never rang. Lige's mother waited on the porch, twisting her apron. When the sky went indigo and still no clang drifted down, she lit the coal oil lamp and started up the trail herself. Halfway up she found the rope swinging loose, the brass bell cold. No footprints but Lige's small government-issue boots he'd traded a possum hide for. The track stopped dead at the oak, then vanished like the boy had been plucked straight into the sky. Search parties went out before sunrise. Men with coal carbide lanterns and squirrel dogs combed every laurel slick and limestone sink. They found Lige's knot of twine, his Barlow knife, even the half-eaten molasses cookie he carried for luck. But no Lige. By Sunday the preacher said a prayer and the town resigned itself. The mountain had taken another one. Except the mountain gave him back. On the following Wednesday, Old Man Grooms was checking his moonshine run near Thunderhead when he heard something big crashing through the poplars. He raised his shotgun, expecting a bear drunk on mash, and instead saw Lige stumbling out of the greenbrier, naked, scratched raw, eyes white as chestnuts. The boy carried a smell like wet iron and cedar smoke. They wrapped him in a horse blanket and carried him down to Doc Ramsey's office above the drugstore. Lige wouldn't speak for 2 days. Just stared at the tin ceiling and shook. On the 3rd morning he finally whispered, "It wasn't a bear, Ma. And it wasn't a man." He told the story only once, to his mother and the sheriff, with the door locked and the curtains drawn. Said he'd run one long clang for supper and was tying the rope when the woods went quieter than church on Tuesday. Even the katydids quit. Then something stepped out from behind the rock face locals call housetop, taller than the bell oak, covered in hair the color of creek mud after rain. It watched him with eyes that caught the last light like a cat's. Lige figured he'd die right there, but the thing only cocked its head, same as a dog trying to figure a riddle. Then it reached out one hand, fingers long as axe handles, and touched the bell. Just touched it, gentle. The brass hummed under its palm like it recognized the creature. Lige's legs finally woke up. He ran. Blind, downhill, through whipvine and deadfalls. He felt hot breath on his neck the whole way, heard branches snap like rifle shots behind him. Somewhere above Spruce Flat Falls he tripped, rolled, and blacked out. When he came to, it was full dark and the thing was carrying him, cradled against a chest thick as a smokehouse ham. The creature moved smooth, never stumbling, up slopes that would break a mule's heart. Lige was too scared to scream. He just clung to the coarse hair and breathed that iron cedar smell. They went higher than any hunter had ever trailed, past where the balsam grows twisted and the air bites your lungs. There was a cave behind a waterfall no map had ever marked. Inside, the thing laid Lige on a bed of moss softer than any feather tick. A smaller one half Lige's height, with a face almost human, brought him handfuls of chestnuts and something that tasted like sweet wild grapes. For 4 days they kept him. Never hurt him. The big one would sit across the fire, yes, they had fire, and watch Lige like he was a puzzle. Sometimes it made a low sound, almost words, almost a lullaby. On the fourth night it pressed something into Lige's hand, a river stone worn perfectly round, shiny as a new nickel, with a hole bored clean through the middle. Then it carried him down the mountain, set him on the trail above Thunderhead, and walked back into the darkness without a sound. When Lige finished talking, the sheriff snorted and said, "Boys make up tales." But Lige's mother opened his clenched fist and there lay the stone, black as midnight, with that impossible hole. Doc Ramsey took it to the university in Knoxville after the war. Geologists said no river on Earth could drill a hole that straight through basalt. They kept the stone in a drawer and never did explain it. Lige grew up, married, ran the Esso station at the Y in Townsend until 1989. He never climbed that ridge again. Folks noticed the bell stayed gone, someone cut it down the week Lige came back. But if you walk the trail at dusk, especially in October when the leaves start to turn, you can hear something else, one low, mournful clang drifting down from higher than any oak could grow. Just one. Like the mountain itself is calling supper for somebody who never came home. And sometimes, late, when the fog settles thick in the little river valley, loggers on the night shift swear they see a tall shadow standing at the treeline, listening for an answer that never comes. That's the story they still tell in Townsend. They call it the silent bell. And if you ask real quiet at the gas station or the cafe, some old-timer will lean in and say the same thing Lige told his mother the night he came back. It wasn't trying to keep me. It just wanted to know what the bell was for. And why we only ring it when somebody's missing.